Welcome and thanks for joining us today. We will be talking about sustainability claims, which is an interesting topic for all of us working in the packaging value chain. We'll talk about the common claims we see in consumer packaging, for example in food packaging, and we'll talk a little bit like what is in them and why is it important to get the claims right and how to substantiate the sustainability claims that we use on the market. I'm joined here today with two of my colleagues, Mariukka Kujanpää, Director of Sustainability, and Vilma Koskenlainen, our Regulatory Affairs Manager. Welcome. I'm happy to have you both today as guests. Let's begin by highlighting a finding from the European Commission. Last year, the Commission cited a report from 2020 that said that more than half of products sold across the EU in different categories have an environmental claim that is unproven or unsubstantiated somehow and can be misleading. And obviously this means that then consumers, when they are buying products, are facing this misleading information and that is not backed by any kind of data. But the first question, Mariukka, over to you, is about what in the first place is a sustainability claim? What do we mean in practice with sustainability claims?
Yeah, and I think you already partly answered the question. So sustainability claim or environmental claim or green claim, as we say, is a claim that conveys a message about the environmental or sustainability performance of a product. Most often we talk about products, but we can of course talk about companies or services, etc. But now we talk about products. And so some examples are, for example, that something is carbon neutral, a package or product has low carbon footprint, or is recyclable, fully recyclable, for example, or these kind of examples are sustainability claims. And most often these claims you can see on a written format, for example, on packaging when you go to the supermarket and want to select a nice cup of yogurt, for example, for yourself, and you might see there a sustainability claim. And these are the claims now that need to be substantiated then when coming forward.
Thank you, Mariukka. Then actually continuing on that, who actually needs these sustainability or green claims? Is it for consumers or is it for other companies, from other companies? What is the need for sustainability or green claims? Vilma.
That's a good question, and the claims are needed both in the business-to-business setting and the business-to-consumer setting. But it is especially the consumers that find that there is a need for more substantiated claims and more transparency. So based on studies, the consumers are willing to contribute to the green economy, but their efforts are often hampered by the lack of information at the point of sale that would then support them to make more sustainable choices. And the consumers are actually quite actively looking for information about the environmental characteristics of the products, like the greenhouse gas emissions. But often they find that the information that is available is insufficient, or they find it difficult to understand or find. And for companies, these sustainability claims are important to communicate the sustainability benefits to the customers and other stakeholders to make more informed decisions. And one key factor of the communication of the claims is that we would have a harmonized framework that would govern how we use these claims. And we see that this kind of harmonized framework would, in the end, drive for more sustainable business practices and transparency as well.
That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing. So it seems that there is a clear need for more claims to be used, but again, they will be more regulated in order to then have the real data-proven approach behind them. I'd like to take here a consumer survey insight to share with. So according to global data, only 24% of consumers globally trust the brands and the claims that brands have on their packaging, for example. And then if we talk about smaller individual brands, consumers trust only 32% of what they are saying. So the difference is not really very big. So there's plenty of things to be done in order to make the claims more credible also in the eyes of consumers, is at least how I understand these figures. Then if we talk about how to make a good claim that has some information behind it, we often go and talk about a life cycle assessment, LCAs. And now, Marjukka, you're an LCA expert. What can you tell us about life cycle assessment and its linkage to the green claims altogether?
Well, life cycle assessment is of course a very good tool for substantiating claims. And life cycle assessment is a method where we actually take, for example, let's take a product as an example, and we want to study the environmental impacts of that product, be it, for example, a piece of paper, for example, from the raw material acquisition until the end of life. So we take all the materials into account, how the raw materials are processed, how the product is made, how it's used, how it's transported over the whole life cycle, and then how it's disposed or recycled in the end of life. So it's a very good tool actually for understanding the life cycle impacts and the environmental impacts of the products. We of course have to remember that it's not like an absolute truth, but it's indicating the potential environmental impacts and environmental performance. Life cycle assessment, it's also a standardized method. We have 2 life cycle assessment standards that set the rules and requirements for the assessments. So basically it is a harmonized method to calculate these impacts. And this of course means as well that we are dealing with a lot of data and a lot of information, because when we are talking about whole life cycles of products, that means that there are tens of processes involved, and there we need to collect a lot of data. But then when we have that data actually in our hand, we have a lot of information, a lot of good insights of the product environmental performance and the processes, and then we can really make informed decisions. For example, if we want to select, for example, a packaging for our products, that is there maybe a better package when we consider environmental performance than what we are using currently. And then, of course, this is also an excellent basis for science-based and data-based claims.
That's true. Is there any challenge with using LCAs? Is there anything that sort of can be questioned? Should we just trust the LCA results, or what would one need to know about LCAs in order to trust them?
That's, of course, a very important question. And I think all methods, of course, have their flaws. And LCA is not a kind of exception here either. And like I said, that we need a lot of data, we need a lot of information, and we need a lot of assumptions as well, because we have, like I said, a big and long life cycle with many processes. So we need to assume certain things. We need to assume where, how, when, etc. And of course, it means that the results of these assessments are only as accurate as these assumptions are, and only as accurate as the data behind the calculations. So these things are, of course, important when it comes to the results as well, that what has been decided during the study. But then I also kind of have this procedure, what I do when I'm, for example, hearing about the new study or reading about the new study. And there are certain things that I always check. And the first is, of course, that who has carried out the study and why and what is it about. And then another thing is that, like I said, that we have the standardization. And the standardization sets certain rules, for example, for comparisons and for studies. And one of these kind of requirements is a critical review. So I always check if a study is critically reviewed, because that already tells quite a lot about the how solid and how kind of well thought through the assumptions are. And then a third point is that how is it communicated? Is there anything available publicly? For example, any presentations or summary reports or even longer reports. So I think this kind of a transparency is also very important, and also gives an indication of the kind of how good the study is.
Thank you. So all in all, actually carrying out the LCA study and making it then all the way to being published, it's quite an effort actually. It's a lot of data and many people and many experts involved and many analyses actually, and sort of challenging the data as well included there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marjukka. Then Vilma, let's continue on the LCA topic. There certainly are brand owners who are interested in using LCA studies as part of their sustainability toolkit. So how might this method help them in order to then work with sustainability claims going forward?
That is a very good question. And actually under the Green Claims Directive, which has not been adopted yet and is still undergoing changes in the EU legislative procedure, for environmental claims related to environmental impacts, like the carbon footprint, the LCA provides the scientific evidence that's needed to substantiate the claim. So it means that the LCA will be an essential tool and piece of puzzle for the brand owners to ensure compliance with the future requirements. But of course this requires, according to the directive, that the LCA is verified by an accredited third-party organization and is regularly checked by public authorities. But then for other types of environmental claims that are related to a single characteristic of a product, for example, recycled material content, there is no need to have this full life cycle analysis, but they will most likely under the directive follow a more simplified procedure, which will be then specified under the secondary legislation to be adopted.
Okay. Well then today, Marjukka, how do we at Stora Enso use LCAs, and is that a collaborative effort together with our partners, or how does that work carry on every day?
Yeah, it's a collaborative effort, definitely, and we have actually a very long history with LCA. We've been carrying out different LCA type of studies or activities, one could say, over 20 years already. So we've been collecting data from our operations and processes, but then also from our suppliers and also further down from the value chain, from our customers and end of life, etc. And it's really a collaboration with, first of all, it's a collaboration, internal collaboration. So we need a lot of collaboration with mills and etc. and different functions. But then we also need collaboration with our suppliers. So we try more and more to get suppliers like primary data, because it's, of course, like I said previously, the results are only as accurate as the data is. So we try to improve the data quality and accuracy all the time. But then it's also collaboration with our customers. Like Vilma here said that it's also like our customers are facing the same requirements, and we've been already for long giving our LCA data to our customers, and they are actually also asking for it. So we have a good collaboration there. But then it's in addition to the customer collaboration, we also have this industry level LCA collaboration where, for example, there are studies for beverage cartons or food service packaging, where we have also provided our data to be part of those studies. So it's really a collaborative effort.
Thank you. And then life cycle assessment, you said we've been using it for 20 years. So let's talk a little bit about its future. So how do you see that life cycle assessment methodology can kind of be enlarged, and can it cover other areas of sustainability that it does today? And what's the development direction? What would you say?
Yeah, LCA is definitely developing all the time. So it's life cycle assessments have historically been about environmental impacts and are still. And of course, there is a lot of like methodological development inside the environmental impacts. But then there is also kind of increasing need to combine different sustainability aspects as well. And we actually talk about life cycle sustainability assessment nowadays, which tries to combine, in addition to environmental impacts, it tries to combine economic impacts, social impacts, circularity, and also use of critical raw materials, or some other impacts as well. But we, for example, now participated in a European Union funded project called Orienting that tried to combine these areas that I just mentioned into one holistic sustainability assessment metric. And But I would say that we are still quite far from that, that we would have those, for example, labels on packaging based on these kind of sustainability assessment studies. So development definitely is there, but I think in the claiming, I think this environmental side is the strong one.
And lastly, then, a question for both. How might brand owners look at how they can make sure that the claims they are willing to use regarding their products meet actually the regulations that is on currently? And then also on the LCA, how might brand owners then take the first steps if they want to introduce LCA into their sustainability work? But on the regulations first, Vilma.
Yes, so from the regulatory perspective, the brand owners are advised to take stock and review the environmental claims related to the packaging they are currently using and intend to use in the future. And for the Green Claims Directive, it is advisable to start looking at the substantiation and verification of the claims that are being used. And as an example, we in Stora Enso Packaging Materials, we are continuously updating our internal guidelines for making sustainability claims so that these guidelines meet the requirements from the Empowering Consumers Directive and also start preparing for the Green Claims Directive. And we've also started to elevate the understanding of the claims and the requirements in the organization. And I think we've had really good discussions so far. But of course, this is a long journey to get the organization on board. But I feel like the first step is to raise awareness on the topic.
Thank you. Then Marjukka on the LCA.
Yeah, well, with the LCA, I think the first thing to do is, of course, to contact your sustainability team or sustainability people, whoever they are, and ask if there is actually something that is done already with the LCAs. But if not, then I think the easiest is, of course, to start exploring kind of what's out there, what's published. There most probably is an LCA study that is already made to a quite similar product that you have, or something similar anyway, so that you can learn actually from the method and how it's done, what are the learnings, what are the results, etc. And then, of course, the most powerful way of learning is to actually commission a study yourself. It might be tricky, of course, if you don't know anything, so where to start, what to do, but it's still a very, very powerful way to learn actually about the environmental performance of your product and really get the insights and information. And then you can also kind of connect it then later to the claims and start developing that part as well. And like I said, we've been doing this already for long in Stora Enso, and we have been also collaborating with customers also on this side. And now the most recent kind of addition to our LCA offering is this LCA service, so that we can even better help our customers and value chain with kind of starting to explore LCA and getting more familiar with the method. So we can also help in this.
So the LCA services are part of our Beyond Board service portfolio, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Good. But with these last insights, I thank you for joining and thank you for listening. Thanks to our guests who shared their insights, and looking forward to connecting with you again. Thank you.